strength when we consider that blacks throughout the world are criminally inclined. Sub-Saharan Africa has the highest homicide rate in the world. The rate is 40 per 100,000 persons. Latin America is the second highest with a rate of 23. The United States is 10. I've heard people from Africa talk about the high crime rate, the high violence in our country. Why don't they look at the violence in their own country? Some people would attribute the high homicide rate in Africa to the legacy of colonialism. However, India was a colony, and the United States was a colony, and our rates are only 1/4 those of black Africa. And furthermore, our rates are pushed up by African Americans. Not saying that 100% of crime is caused by, black crime is caused by low intelligence. Phil Rushton has done a good job of describing how there are other biological variables, such as high testosterone, that contribute to black crime. The bottom line is that whites are not to be blamed for the criminality of blacks. Another undesirable effect of desiring the truth, of denying the truth, is that many blacks have an attitude of entitlement. If indeed they are equals, but they're less successful, that means that we owe them something. That means that they can prey on us. That means they can rob us, they can rob our cars, they can burglarize our houses, and then only be placed on probation. This ushers in an attitude that selling drugs is more desirable than having a minimum wage job. I see nothing degrading for a black person with an IQ of 80 or a white person with an IQ of 80 shining shoes. I don't see many black people shining shoes now. I see mainly whites and Mexicans shining shoes. When I was a young person, physical labor, manual labor, unskilled manual labor was referred to as N-word work. Now, at least in California, I seldom see black persons doing physical outdoor labor. I only see whites and Mexicans doing this work. One of my students did an internship in a small town in California, and she was given an assignment of calling clients and their families at their home, and she found that the Mexicans were seldom home. They were out working, but the blacks were always at home. Mexicans often like to say, "I like to work. It's too bad more blacks don't have this attitude." The denial of the intellectual inferiority of black persons has made many blacks dysfunctional persons. California law prohibits the administration of IQ tests in the public schools to black children. It supposedly discriminates against them as test bias, place them in special education classes, and so forth. One of the unfortunate results of this is that the intellectually dull black people do not have the education that they deserve to have. Intellectually dull black children should be with other dull black children. Intellectually gifted black children, as rare as they are, should be with intellectually gifted children. A lot of the so-called liberals are denying black children the sort of education that they need. The big lie of racial equality in intelligence has led to a lot of white guilt. I have no guilt. None of you should have any guilt. I've never owned a slave. No white person in America should feel guilty about slavery. I am disgusted by the fact that so many people in my field, the field of psychology, try to make people feel guilt about the problems of blacks. They like to give diversity training. They really love diversity training. They could more constructively use their time by treating white guilt. Fortunately, there are some psychologists who are not immersed with. Okay. Fortunately, there are some psychologists that are not infected by the racial equality in intelligence bug. I work with a psychologist who says that blacks hate Whitey, but they should like Whitey because Whitey supports them. We support them on welfare, we support them in prisons, we support them in jails, we support them from the stealing that they do from us. Now, this telling us that we should feel guilty because of the situation that blacks are in reminds me that in the 1960s it was common for psychologists to tell the parents of schizophrenics that they caused their child to be schizophrenic. There was all sorts of theory at that time. Nonsense, the schizophrenic mother, all that sort of thing. Unfortunately, there are even psychologists nowadays who try to make the parents of schizophrenic persons guilty. I tell the parents of schizophrenics, you are no more responsible for your child having schizophrenia than a parent whose child has polio. And I think that this practice of making parents of schizophrenic guilty is just as ridiculous as, making white people feel guilty is just as ridiculous as making the parents of schizophrenic persons guilty. The denial of racial equality in intelligence hurts the very foundations of our democratic society. It threatens academic freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of scientific inquiry. Those who try to silence my speaking the truth should be compared to Saddam Hussein cutting the tongues out of persons who disagree with him. They should be compared to Adolf Hitler, burning the books that he does not like. They should be compared to Senator McCarthy, who maliciously destroyed the careers of many people. You disagree? You mean he was right? I take that back. Bear in mind, I'm only a psychologist. I don't feel guilty about making a mistake. If I made a mistake about psychological matter, gee, it'd be such an embarrassment. But I'm not a political scientist, so I'm not embarrassed by making a statement outside my field. I apologize, though, for saying something that's incorrect. Okay. So let's just stick with Hitler and Saddam. Anyhow, these people who criticize me for speaking the truth are the enemies of truth, the enemies of science, the enemies of our freedom. They wave a flag of civil rights, and yet they wear swastika-covered underwear. The denial of the truth about black intelligence is harmful to highly intelligent blacks. They have to live with the burden of people wondering whether they really are capable or whether they got through school and got the job they have because the bar was lowered for them. I would be unhappy if I were a black with an IQ of 135 and I was regarded the same as a black with an IQ of 105. I am not 100% convinced that 100% of black persons are 100% happy about having jobs they're intellectually unqualified for. I have no doubt that some of them are happy about the situation. I have no doubt that many of them are pleased to wear expensive clothes and misuse bad words in an unsuccessful attempt to appear brighter than they actually are. I have no doubt that some of them gloat in being able to delegate their work to white persons who are paid less, who have higher IQs. Nevertheless, I can't help but feel that some blacks are uncomfortable about these situations. If everyone in my workplace thought I was an intellectually dull parasite, I would be very embarrassed. I assume that some blacks in these situations are also embarrassed. There are many black persons who flunked out of college. There are many black persons, as we know, who flunk out of college. They would be economically and financially, vocationally better off if they had gone to get a job instead of going to college. They were inappropriately advised to go to college. And this is harmful to them and harmful to the white people who did not go to college because their slots were occupied by black students. it is not only white persons that